He's in one of those new reclining. Everybody ready?
Bev,
Yes.
Mike's talking to you.
We're good?
She goes back to the conversation.
I think we're good. All right. Here we go. I think we got everything. Good evening and welcome to the April 28th, 2014 regular meeting of the Waterloo Community School District Board of Education. I hereby call the meeting to order. And now please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Now please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now Shanley McNally will read the school district's mission statement.
The Waterloo Schools community commits to a comprehensive system of education and support to assure that each and every student will graduate prepared for college, career, and citizenship, as evidenced by continuing education, pursuing a career path, and contributing to a community.
Thank you, Shanley. And now the first item we have on our agenda for action is a public hearing for the old Irving Elementary building demolition project. It'll be on our agenda later to vote actually on the project. It's in our consent agenda. But because it involves here actually destruction, not construction, but over $100,000, we have to have a public hearing. So we'll have a public hearing now. I'll read some information and then invite anybody who wishes to speak to come forward. But this is just for the demolition project. We'll also have later in our meeting the general public speaking portion. This is Exhibit A. It's on page 1 of our board packet. And I hereby declare the public hearing for proposed public improvements to be opened. Again, this regards the demolition project for the old Irving Elementary building. And notice of this public hearing was published in the Waterloo Courier. And we have it in our board agenda. It's Exhibit O on page 48 of our board packet. But at this time, I'd like to invite anybody who wishes to address the board regarding this project to come forward and just state your name and your address. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Seeing no one, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion to close the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. All right, the next item on our agenda is a very good thing. It is a project to bring some recognition to the Fine Arts program at West High. And Josh Wilson is here in the audience, and Tara Thomas is now coming forward to give us some background information. This is Exhibit A1, which is on page A1 in our board packet. But Tara will give us some background information, and then we can hear from Josh.
I'd like to invite Josh Wilson up. He's a long time. Now I can speak. I'd like to invite Josh Wilson to come up. He's a West High graduate, longtime friend. He job shadowed myself and Ron Steele many times at KWWL, and I knew that he would go on to do great things post high school, and he is the kind of community-minded person who wants to keep giving back. So with his involvement with West High's Fine Arts, he has a great idea that is now, the ball is in motion, so he wanted to speak to you all about it. Josh.
Well, thanks, Tara, and It's good to be here. Thank you, Mike, for allowing me to come and speak with you. I have to smile for a moment. It's always great to see Bev Smith up here. My mom was a teacher in the district for years, and when I was a very little youngster running around causing trouble, Bev was the principal over at Roosevelt Elementary School, and so I always kind of looked to her as one of my babysitters because so it's great to see you. Great person to have working for the district. So tonight I just want to tell you a little bit about myself briefly. I know several of you, Lyle, Mike, Dr. Norris. It's great to see you. A 2006 West High graduate. I went on to the University of Northern Iowa where I majored in political communications. Went on after that to internships with Senator Chuck Grassley, and then spent close to 2 years as Governor Branstad and Lieutenant Governor Reynolds' public liaison in Des Moines. So I got to do a lot of traveling and some cool things with the governor and lieutenant governor. Really get to see the state that I grew up in a whole new light. I always kind of laughed when they said they did their 99 county tours because I always thought there were some counties that probably weren't worth going to. But I got to tell you, we have some awesome areas in this state, some very beautiful ones. And it's a great segue into what I'm going to talk to you about tonight because I got to notice that a lot of school districts across Iowa really have some great recognition programs for their fine arts departments. One that I'll bring up is West Des Moines Valley. Any speech and theater person watching is probably gets angry when they hear that name because they always beat Waterloo. But they've got a great program. Actually, they've got one of their pillars in their school is like the 3 A's: academics, the arts, and athletics. And recently, I came back here to Waterloo to work with State Representative Walt Rogers about 7 months ago, and I got to go back to West High and help out the theater department as an assistant coach. I helped with the Improvers, something that I had done, and with their plays as well. And I got to notice something. There's really not an area at West High where the arts students have their trophies and their achievements on display. And that's probably nobody's fault other than there's probably a lot of people who don't realize that the arts get trophies and a lot of awards. I encourage all of you to take an opportunity to go up to West High. I was just there moments ago, and in the band room, there are literally, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of trophies on the tops of closets around the band room. You open up compartments in the little theater, and tons of speech and drama trophies will fall out on you. Same with the vocal music and the visual arts as well. So I got to talking with some of the teachers there. Leslie Morris, let me do a little plug real quick. You have a great administrator in Leslie Morris at West High. I've heard that from faculty and students, and she has just been tremendous to work with. So thank you for putting her there. She has been instrumental in helping with this project. She's got some great visions herself to spruce up West High and showcase a lot of different things. But we got to discussing it'd be nice to put some display cases, much like down by the gymnasium where we recognize athletics, to put some of those in by the theater, in main hallways where public can see them. Shanley, I saw you nodding that you've seen the band room, so you know that there is a good display for a lot of their awards, but it's in areas of the school that the public won't regularly see, and even other students who aren't involved in band or the fine arts won't see those in those areas. So we got to talking, and I learned, being in politics, that there's no better project than a privately funded one that doesn't need taxpayer money. So I stepped forward and offered to kind of lead the fundraising efforts. And Andrew did a great article in the paper just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm proud to tell you that since that article ran, we're already over $1,000 that's been mailed into this project. We set a pretty modest goal of $5,000, and I think we're, especially after Dr. Norris and all 7 of you write your checks tonight, we'll be even closer to our goal. But the public support is great. The reason for me being here tonight is a lot of people are interested in the project, and I just wanted to make myself available to you if you have any questions. I want to be as transparent and open about the project as possible. It's a great thing. I have not heard from anyone that's upset about it. This isn't stepping on the toes of the Academic Hall of Fame or the Athletic Hall of Fame. I myself have several family members in the Athletic Hall of Fame. I just didn't get their genetics, so there's not an opportunity for me to be in that one. But we've got a tremendous amount of alumni, and people that have come from West High have just gone on to do great things from the fine arts. And and not only students but teachers. A couple come to mind, Beth McCrindle, who served, I credit her with a lot of my communication skills that I got. She was my radio broadcasting and improv coach. Bill Dawson is a tremendous asset to Waterloo West High. Carol Garrett, there's the Sittas, Mary and Steve Sitta in vocal music and band. Just a lot of people that I don't ever want to see their legacy disappear. And so I want to make sure that they have a place to put that in West High and keep it there for years to come. So the project is being privately funded. You can send checks, and the public can send checks to West High directly. Just make it out to the Fine Arts Hall of Fame. The plan is, of course, just to put in a few display cases. We're not going to get all hundreds of those trophies in there, but just to showcase a few of the more notable ones, and perhaps get a Hall of Fame put in for notable alumni. I see that probably not happening until farther down the road. There's obviously procedures that need to be put into place for selection committees and whatnot. But it's a great program, a great project, and I'm proud to be an alumni of the fine arts. And I'm just something I can do to give back, and I'd entertain any questions that anyone has on that project.
I'll put in a couple plugs here before we get into that. There's also email waterloofinearts@gmail.com.
Correct.
And then donation sent to West High. It's 425 East Ridgeway, 50702. And just make the checks payable to Fine Arts Hall of Fame.
Correct.
Okay.
And have we, some of our famous alumni like Forrest Smith, and have we contacted them to assist with the fundraising efforts?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. I'm in the process of reaching out to Forey. I had the great opportunity to meet Forey the year I graduated in 2006. If any of you remember, we had this big Return of the Legends event at West High, so we brought back Dr. Smith's daughter and Forey Smith as well. And so, yeah, I actually plan to reach out to Forey. I'm a good friend of his. He was actually my mom's school teacher before he went out and made it big in school. So I've got a personal connection with him, and he's very excited. If anyone knows Flat Stanley, the paper doll that elementary school teachers send out, Forey Smith has done more Flat Stanleys than anyone I know on the beaches of Malibu, so I know he'll be more than happy to help in this project as well. So, yeah, we're compiling, the faculty at West in the fine arts is putting their brain power together to figure out the alumni that have really gone tremendous places, and we're going to reach out to them individually and invite them to get involved in the project. I would also hope that people like Forey might eventually be on that committee that would help select people to be in the Hall of Fame. So.
You know, Josh, I'd just say I think it's a great project. It seems like a great idea, and in some ways, when you first hear about it, when I first heard about it in the Courier article, I thought, this is a great idea, why didn't we think of this before? But I think it just takes somebody taking the lead on it, so thank you for doing that. But, and it will, I'm sure, take some time to get it going with the Hall of Fame, with the selection and that sort of thing. But the academic Hall of Fame started, it wasn't that long ago, I don't think, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, and so they took, I know Ann Richter was really involved in that as well. So it just takes somebody starting it, and then once it gets going, to be able to sustain it. But thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
for
I
your
just think
efforts
this
in
is the
getting it.
final piece that we're
Yeah,
missing.
exactly.
And I think we'll then have recognized all different students from all the different activity areas. So I think it'll be great.
And there are a number have gone on to great things.
Exactly.
Josh, I'm envious that you chose the word notable alumni before I could say it. So. Notable. Never mind. Never mind.
Well, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. And again, Waterloo finearts@gmail.com or mailing to 425 East Ridgeway Avenue, 50702.
Thanks very much.
Josh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is another good thing, and we've got Tony Dell here. He's just coming forward, and he's handing something out. But this is regarding the National Speech Contest, which I believe is in Kansas City this year. This is Exhibit B on page 3 of our board packet. And as he's getting prepared, Mr. Dell's getting prepared, we'll get the motion on the table and then hear from him. But the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve East High School's participation at the National Speech Contest in Overland Park, Kansas.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay, and Mr. Dell. Thank you. If you could just give us some background information on your students. I know you've gone to the National Speech Contest a few years now. But it's a great thing, so thank you for what you're doing.
Very proud of the students at East High. Our national qualifiers this year, the Road to Nationals, are Chris Bowick and Dan Severson. They'll be going in duet acting. They've competed in speech and debate for all 4 years of high school. They have competed and won at the following contests in 2013 and 14. Third place at the H. Keller contest in Davenport. Second place at the Simpson College Invitational in Indianola. Third place at Bettendorf Bulldog Invite, and first place at the national qualifying IHSFL, Iowa High School Forensics League, in Marshalltown. Dan and Chris will compete in Overland Park, Kansas, June 15th to the 22nd at the National Speech and Debate, performing their selection called Brothers. And unfortunately, Chris was sick today. We had practiced, and we'd hoped that we'd get to do it again because we enjoyed that last year when we saw the other performers. We'll be staying at the Roosevelt. Our reservation is made and secured with your guys' approval. We have a letter of support from our principal. Dr. Lindeman has signed our request form that we can go, and both parents are attending, but they're not riding out with us. They're going to go out and camp and then drive in and see their sons perform each day, which I thought was pretty cool. So I believe all of the necessary things have been put in place with your approval for us to go. Page 2 of the packet that I distributed is an itinerary that includes cost and rates and everything. And page 3 in the packet that I prepared for the board has to do with the tentative schedule and performance times of each day, so we'll know exactly what's going on. And there's a front and a back to the last page. Excited to provide this opportunity. My assistant coach will be taking them, and we're very proud of our third year in a row to the National Speech Contest. Got talented kids over there at East.
Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment, and it's great to see the posters too, and the number of kids you had on the speech and debate team.
Yeah, the gentleman before me was talking about those awards and places to put them. These are just some of them that we won this year. Really proud of these guys. They've competed hard. I need to share one other thing when I'm up here. Our novice, our first year, we have an A and a B team. We're getting bigger. And our novice went to Novice Nationals this year and competed against students from Florida, from California, from Minnesota, Colorado, and we took 4th place at that tournament.
Oh, fantastic.
So our up and coming is
That's
looking
great
pretty
to hear.
strong too. So,
That's
and
great
I
to hear.
attribute a big part of that to the great cooperation from our intermediate schools. We host an intermediate school debate tournament. And we had 80 students there Friday. We debated in the locker room with tables. We debated in the
wow.
janitor's
Okay.
closet. We debated
Okay.
finding empty places to debate. And we gave out 1st through 10th place trophies. And I got to throw Hoover the compliment. They took 1st place at our tournament. So they did we have a traveling trophy, and they took 1st place. So a great experience for about 80 intermediate kids. They got to eat lunch at East High. What more do you want? You know, so it was fun. And our ELP students and our varsity debaters judge them. So we use the talent we have to communicate with the other talents. So a lot of neat things happening. Once again, our focus is Dan and Chris and their accomplishment on their way to nationals this year, and very proud of them also.
Oh, great.
Our tickets for sale, I'm going to be in Kansas City that weekend.
Oh,
Because my little brother's going to be 26 and he's
Yeah?
there.
yes, come to the Sheridan
And so it's at the Sheridan in their
in Overland
tickets?
Park. Yeah, and it starts at 9 o'clock, and it should the first rounds competitions are Monday and Tuesday, and they'll be done by 4 o'clock.
Okay.
And then they break into the top half, and I think we got a pretty good shot. Pieces with a theme that have a message seem to be, you learn stuff as a coach. You never quit learning as a teacher. Seem to be coming on stronger and going farther into competition. And this one is about 2 stepbrothers. And the older one doesn't like the younger one, and the younger one constantly bothers him, and eventually he decides to befriend him because he sees how he stands up to a bully and for his older brother, you know, and the older guy could have whipped him real easy, but the little brother stands up because somebody's busted on his big brother, and his brother catches some of that and then sees that his little brother, even though he's a stepbrother, does have some really good feelings about him, so he decides to take him out and play baseball with him. And he takes him to a baseball game, and then they go to a baseball diamond, and the younger brother has a health problem. So, and I don't want to kill it from there, but we do have a Taste of Speech coming up, and I'll put out more information about that. That's one of our fundraisers. And with some guidance from Dr. Norris, and thank you, we have secured all the funds. We've already paid our hotel bill, our registration fee, and all it's taken care of. So we're good to go as long as you guys say we can.
That's fantastic. Oh,
Yeah.
no problem there. But no, that's great to
Okay.
hear. I didn't know on the fundraising and kind of how.
It says duet
That's a lot.
acting. Are there different classes that the students can get into, or different competitions?
Yeah, there's 4 different types of speech
Okay.
in the National Forensics League. There's duet acting, which are 2 people. There is solo acting. There is improvisation. There is also extemporaneous speaking. And then there's another category that has to do with political, slipping my mind at the moment,
okay.
sorry.
It's just-
I've only done this 12 years. I having one of those moments.
No, but I guess the question is for kids watching, it doesn't just have to be the classic debate with 2 people going back and
we
forth. that
do
it's-
speech and debate at
Yeah,
East
yeah.
High. We run both programs. And we meet on Tuesday and Thursday night in room 304. We start at 2:45 and we're done by 4:30. And kids sign up for contests in advance. There is a commitment to that. And of course, there's entry fees per contest and all kinds of other stuff. But we are very happy we started equivalent of Java West, except for we call it Mrs. Olson's Coffee Clash. If you remember Mrs. Olson from Folgers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we started the Coffee Clash, and that has helped us to be ahead of the game this year. Wednesday mornings at 5, I get up and go make coffee. And we sell coffee with flavored creams, and we sell bananas, we sell orange juice, and then Martin Brothers helped us out with a cappuccino machine.
Oh, cool.
And
Okay.
so we've brought in a good amount of money to where we're sitting okay this year. And so, except for getting up at 5 o'clock on Wednesdays. And I've never not had kids show up to help.
Oh, good.
They get up early too. They have to be there at 6:30.
Right.
Same time I do. So we've on our way with some few things. And the junior high support is fantastic also, once again.
And what is the date of your speech fundraising evening?
We haven't set that
You
date
haven't
yet.
yet, okay.
I have several different, I have a parent support team, and 4 of my mothers are going to cook dinner this year. We've been so fortunate to have the home economics department or culinary arts prepare that meal the last couple years in a row, and right now they're transitioning some things. So they were unable to do that, so mom power, and,
Yeah.
and they work great. Or dad power, we'll take
Yeah.
dads too, any good cook, definitely. I will,
Yes.
I will, definitely. Can I do that? Is that okay? Thanks, Pam. All right. Anything else I can help with, or any questions, or? I've reserved a van with the school system, so
Okay.
I think we're good to go, if it's
And
okay.
if sometime, another time, if they could come and do the performance, I would love. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Would you like to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They both have jobs at Fairway too, so our.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's,
if
they're
it can-
seniors.
if it can work
They're
out.
seniors. Let me
Or
just kind of.
if not, if
Yeah.
it's recorded or getting it on a video or something like that. too,
Okay.
so.
We'd like
Yeah.
that. You bet.
But
We
thank you.
appreciate that.
We appreciate all you're doing to Mr. Conyers, but to the students, to everybody. Thank you for taking the initiative to do this. It should be a great experience for these 2 students, and you're representing us well. So we wish them nothing but the best
Thank you.
at nationals. So
Thank
thanks again. If there's no further questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Thanks again. All right, the next item on our, we have a number of good things. Sometimes we have board meetings where we're dealing with other tougher issues, but the next 2 are also good things as well. And this is recognition of a couple of, or actually a few awards. But Mindy Fisher is here to discuss, it's Exhibit C on page 8. And this first is a recognition for Bunger Middle School. And then secondly, for an award for Expo. And so Henry Shepard is here from Expo, and then Andy Meehee from Bunger is here. And Mindy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So this is really more for your guys' information, but you remember back at the end of October when both Bunger and Expo came and presented their PBIS information, and that they both got recognized by the national conference in Chicago. And then Since then, they've both then been recognized by the state of Iowa for the work that they're doing, and part of that is the work that they did at the conference in Chicago, but they also now have presented at a conference in Des Moines. So I'm going to let them more speak to that a little bit, but this really is a big celebration of our recognition of our schools in Waterloo. So, Andy.
So I'm Andy. Now, I'm Andy Meehy. I'm the principal at Bunger Middle School. And last Wednesday, it was really a treat for me. I try really hard to never leave the building. And I got to go down to Des Moines, and we presented at a learning supports conference. And not really knowing what to expect, I took one of my teachers, who was my PBIS coach, and one of my counselors. And through an invitation, really unsolicited, we came down. We presented for, it was about 2 hours and 15 minutes or so, to a crowd of, when we were in there, it was about 70 to 75 other educators from all over the state. And we kind of gave them a quick rundown of the history, I think it said the evolution of PBIS at Bunger, and then talked to them about our Tier 2 supports for some of our students that kind of struggle with behaviors and things we've put in place. And kind of talked about the fact that we are a bit of an anomaly, but it just came through really the hard work of my staff. So having my staff there to do that and kind of put that on was really fun for me. And then we took questions at the end, and I tried to count, and I can't remember now, but everywhere from Storm Lake to Burlington to smaller communities like Dysart. One of the big things we learned 6 years ago with PBIS is a lot of it is about just sharing. Just like teaching, if you have a good idea, share it, you can get to more kids. And so we offered up all of our information, and so when we did that, we started to receive a bunch of emails and requests for different materials that we think will help kids all over the state. And I joked with Henry, it gave me a reason to get rid of some of the business cards that I carry around in my bag all the time because we forgot to put an email. So at the end of ours, we offered that up, and they flew off the shelves. People were really impressed with Waterloo, and we couldn't plug them enough, but they also were super receptive to the idea that we talk about low SES and minority students and kind of share. I think the guy from Burlington started to pay attention after I told him when numbers are up, they think, oh, well, you can't do that in my kind of a district. But when you show them that stuff, then they really start to pay attention. So nice plug for the district.
Great.
So I'm Henry, and I'm back again. It's like a bad penny, just keeps showing up. Man. So I had the opportunity also last week.
But with a nice tie, Henry.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity last week as well with Andy and his team to go down to Des Moines and present information from our building regarding PBIS. And we were invited to come not because our data is so outstanding like it is at Bunger, but because we have an interesting twist with PBIS when it comes to implementing in an alternative school setting. It's kind of unique. And then when you think about our building and Expo Alternative Learning Center and all the programs that we have, PBIS looks a little bit different in each of those areas. So when I presented, I used the term, and I know that I've heard it from you guys as well, and I heard it from Jane and different people, but loose and tight. So we talked about how some things in our building with PBIS are tight, and it's going to be the same from program to program, but then some things are loose. Like our celebrations each month, each program has their flexibility to determine what that's going to be like and the theme and those kind of things. So we were invited to come to present that type of information. A lot of schools around the state wanted to know, what does PBIS look like in an alternative school setting? That's what we were sharing. And I tell you, like Andy's presentation, we probably had 75, 80 people in there. Lots of positive feedback. And I would say within 10 minutes after walking out of that conference room, my phone was just going off from people calling and emailing already, wanting information, wanting to come visit our school. We've set up several visits already, some face-to-face and some through Skype. They want to see how we do our presentations, how we do our celebrations monthly. They're just interested in it. So again, it's a nice plug for our district to see some of the wonderful things that we're doing in our buildings around. And I took my staff to Zombie Burger for dinner, and Andy didn't.
He did drive-through, beating me up because, You know, I'm fiscally responsible. And so
He took his staff to Centro.
we went to work that morning and worked until 9 and then drove down and presented and then came back directly.
station.
It was a Casey's. It was a
I
nice
have to
gas
say
station.
that for all of the work, I owe both your staffs dinner, so you guys totally rock.
No,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you to all three
So
of you.
much.
It's something that, having no background in education, there are always new programs being put in place. And I don't mean this derisively, but oftentimes you're not sure if they're going to work. And I think they're always done with pure hearts, pure motives. But sometimes it's just kind of, this is the latest fad, that sort of thing. And with PBIS, the more I've seen it, the more I've realized it's a pretty big deal that's been put in place over the last few years, and it works. And I think it'll be around, but you all and your staffs deserve all the credit for that. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
All right, and Mindy's here with the next item on our agenda. It's Exhibit D, and this is recognition from Character Counts for Fred Becker Elementary. And Sunny and Melissa are here, and then Joe Malsom is here from West High as well to discuss the awards for both Becker and West. So Mindy, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, so I'm super happy that I get to be here for all these celebrations, and that's all I get to come for. But that's my first caveat. The next thing is that, as you guys know, we still have the Cedar Valley Character Counts awards and nominations, and even though we don't necessarily say that we're a school of character, we do still often have the pillars in our schools, and we talk about character and how important character education is to our students and to our as they grow in their employability skills. I have the pleasure of serving on the committee, which is part of why I'm here for this. And so we recognized 2 Waterloo separate entities. One is Becker Elementary for the work that they're doing with Leader in Me and PBIS and the things that they're putting in place. And the second is Joe Malsom was nominated by a peer as an educator of character, which really speaks to what people think about Joe and the education that he's providing students at West High. So I'm going to turn it back over to them and let them say a few words.
I'm Melissa Stegel, and go ahead.
And I'm Sunny Hart.
And we could not be more excited and to receive that award. And I think about, this is my 6th year as an administrator in the district, and when I started for Waterloo at Edison, I often found myself crying in a closet. I'm not exaggerating about that. And so to think in that time that to come and implement PBIS and then add the layer of Leader in Me and really build a foundation of establishing kids and character in their future so that we're developing leaders to really drive our community. And Sunny and the team are really, and our staff have really driven that into all of our pieces of school. So Sunny could speak a little bit more about that.
Well, and I think that my journey, your journey is a little bit longer than mine, but when I first was introduced to Melissa as her lead teacher, I came over to Edison, and it was like the last day of school, and Melissa was having a professional learning about Leader in Me, and it was the
Very
first time.
last day.
Very
She's
last.
supposed to be packing up their classrooms, and I've got a Leader in Me staff
Terry
development.
Trask was there, and they were just kind of rolling out the concept. And Melissa comes out, and we had worked together before, but I hadn't seen her in a few years. And she comes out and she just gets me this great big hug, and she's like, "Okay, come in, because we're rolling out this Leader in Me thing." And I was like, "Okay." So I go in, and so that's just 3 years. This is my 3rd year with Melissa and at Becker, and I got contacted earlier this year from someone who's on the board with Mindy, who just happens to be a grandpa at our building as well, and wanted to nominate Becker because he'd seen some articles in the paper, and just ironically, I'd had his granddaughter in some leadership roles a few different times, and so he goes, "I really want to nominate you guys, so just can you get me something?" I was like, "Okay," and it was one of those, "Can you get me something by Friday?" I was like, "Okay." So
in the midst of evaluation.
So I just threw it in there, typed everything I could possibly think of that would connect to Character Counts. And in the midst of that, I really kind of forgot to tell Melissa that I did that.
Talk about building capacity.
And so then,
turn it over and let them go.
So then it was over spring break that we get this announcement that says Becker wins School of Character. I said to my husband, I don't even know if I told Melissa that I did that. Oh shoot, that would be a good surprise.
It was. I was like, wow, we're winning a character award. That's awesome.
So it was really great.
Yeah.
And
the fact that really right now in that role, I know. It's just, okay.
No, you're a very good team. It's
Okay,
a very, yes.
and this is how it is our staff meetings,
Yes.
so you just get a little taste of what it's like at our staff meetings. Right now, we have 93 students in a leadership role at Becker, and we had 93 students last term in a leadership role. That means leaders from facilities to ambassadors to reading
Service.
buddies, service leaders. We have
recycling.
yeah, and individual students have wanted just to, they come with these ideas and then we just help them figure out how to do that and they take off. So we collected items for the women's shelters around the community and then turned them over to DCS.
Yep.
And
Women's Shelter on Lafayette.
Yep.
Oh.
House of Hope. And so that, and then our latest fundraiser, service project was cancer awareness. And so our goal was $500 penny wart in the hall. So 3, 5, 1, 2, and pre-K and K. And
we raised $1,579.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
5 third-grade girls just ran with the project. We just needed a little bit of direction, and then they just ran with it, and they were just dumbfounded at the fact that it went over $1,000. They were collecting pennies like mad.
And the power of empowering children to make decisions for themselves about their community and their learning and being a participant is phenomenal. And that they have that great ownership. So if you're a third grader and you can do that, just imagine your thought of yourself in your own potential as a middle schooler or high schooler or college, to know that I had an impact in that way. Talk about building capacity, and that's really what it's about. The kids that we serve at Becker, we know they come with a lot of stuff too, and so the most important thing is that we build the sense of capability and potential in themselves. And so we do that every day, and we couldn't do it without Leader in Me and PBIS and that partnership. And a ton of credit to Tom Penaluna for CBE, who took a chance on us before there was even a Leader Valley, that paid for our training, paid for all of our initial resources before we came on board with Leader Valley. So I could not, I mean, all that back stuff is what made this so incredible for our community. So.
A little known fact about Sunny, Melissa, is that she cried when she found out she had to come and work for you. No,
Did.
just kidding.
In pure joy.
Yes, tears of joy. Very good. Touche. Yeah.
Pure joy.
No, there are great things going on, and thank you. It was neat to see the recognition, but you deserve it. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
you've got some great things going on. Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah. And Coach Mawson.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks for the recognition. It's very humbling to be recognized for anything, and not really my style to promote myself or anything that I'm doing. But I'd like to thank Maureen Allen. She's my colleague that nominated me. So it was very nice of her, and she's been an awesome addition to West High. She's a retired teacher that came on part-time in our special ed department, and she's been fantastic. But no, I very much appreciated it and am humbled by the recognition. And I've been in Waterloo for 9 years, all 9 years at West High. So what I had said at the banquet is that Waterloo proud for sure, and we need more of that. But Cedar Valley proud and West High proud. So thanks for having us, and thanks.
No,
Thank you.
congratulations, and
Thank
thank
you,
you for all
Phil.
you're doing. And I know, just from going and visiting this school, there've been a lot of changes, and it sounds like a lot of positive changes with the special ed department at West High. I think even physically moving some of the rooms, and I know there've been a lot of changes, and it's probably a lot of work for you and your colleagues as well. But thank you for what you're doing. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
we
sir.
appreciate all of it. And girls track coach at West High just got back from the Drake Relay, so and had a good, successful trip there, right? Was it-
Overall, for Waterloo, I was just telling Dr.
Blair
Barney,
Thomas?
our girls did really well.
Yeah.
Our Blair Thomas was 10th in the shot put, and
Okay.
we dropped a second and a half in the 4x1, and then the East girls, I think, dropped 2 seconds in
Okay.
the 4x1, which is awesome.
Great.
And our boys, West boys, ended up 5th in the 4x1.
Yeah. Okay.
Lance Dunn was 7th in the open one, so
Okay.
very
Oh,
good
great.
weekend.
Okay.
Excited about state in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's kind of that season that
Oh, yeah.
gets me
Get
going
down
for
to it,
track,
so.
anyways.
Yeah.
So.
And I have a question in here. It said that you started a scholarship. Could you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, I had a high school classmate who died of alcoholism, and he had his fair share of struggles, you know, through high school and post high school with alcohol, and not from lack of attempts on our part to help him, and not me specifically. I wasn't as close to him as some of my other friends were, but I don't know how we got the idea, but just kind of I went to Sioux City Heelan, and I don't know how it's come up, but I loved my high school, and we all kind of have that pride for the high school, and nobody loved Heelan more than my friend did, and so kind of continue his legacy, and also just kind of keep alive, you know, I guess the dangers of what alcohol can do to you, but he loved life, and we started up. I was kind of on the back end of that, but I had 2 of my real close friends that have put it together and organized it, and we put up the upfront scholarship fund for, I think it's 1 junior girl and 1 junior boy each year at Heelan to provide some tuition assistance, and they have to be in need of that as well. And then my other friend, we do a chili cook-off contest down in Kansas City every year to raise money for that, and it's been unbelievable, the turnout for that each year. But so I think hopefully it'll be an annual event, and it's a way to kind of keep his legacy as a Heelan graduate alive.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you for all you're doing.
So really quick, just as an FYI too, all of our character nominees will be presented to the state. So they all have a chance of winning a state award as well. So that'll be
great. Okay.
coming in June probably.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Keep us posted on
Thank
that
you.
as well. Thank you. Thank you all. And the next item on our agenda is another board celebration, another good thing regarding Educator Week. And this year, every year we do that, and we distribute books at elementary, middle school, and high school. And we'll get the motion on the table, and I'll turn it over to our board secretary, Pam Arndorfer. But the recommended motion is that the Board of Education proclaim May 5th through 9th, 2014, as Educator Week in the Waterloo Community Schools.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second? Second. Okay. And Mrs. Arndorfer, do you want to give some background?
Yeah, as Mike said, this is an award that's, or Educator Week happens every year. I have the books here that we will pass around. Elementary buildings are getting the book Locomotive. It's a Caldecott Award winner. So, let's start that down there. Middle school is getting Flora Ulysses, The Illuminated Adventures by Kate DiCamillo, and this is one of my daughter's favorite authors. This is a Newbery Award winner. And then Sue Monk Kidd, The Invention of Wings, is going to the senior high schools. So that will be, and this one is part of Oprah's book club. I have not read this one, but I've heard this one's really good too. So those will go to all of the media centers. All of the schools will have those, and that's it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Pam. And I know it's a great program, and I think my wife is maybe reading that one. Yeah. I was glad it wasn't the elementary one. Yes.
The secret.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Let's read them. Pass it on. You can't keep it.
Well-
It's got I used to have book plate in the front, I think I might know.
Oh, yes. Well, Pam, thank you. Any further questions or discussion?
No,
books look
good.
Yes. If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the chair votes aye, motion carried. Next on our agenda is for information from individuals and delegations. Is there anybody that would like to address the board? If so, I'll read a card, and you're more than welcome to. But if not, seeing no one, then I won't read the card. We'll move on to the next item, which is our consent agenda, which tonight consists of a number of things. First, we have the minutes of our last regular board meeting on April 14th. We also have personnel appointments and adjustments. And just please note, this was amended. We should have in front of us, and Andrew, I think you should have a revised copy of the, actually I can hand. Andrew will get that to you. We had that on our board packet. But that was revised to reflect Dr. Charles McNulty, Associate Superintendent of Ed Services. The appointment there. Third, we have bills due and payable between board meetings. Fourth, we have a donation of a piano from Chuck and Alice Shirey to the West High Music Program. Fifth, we have the high school summer school. It's a DCAT grant, which is from Cedar Valley Promise. Sixth, we have cooperative sharing agreement for music with Waterloo Christian School, and that's with West High. Seventh, we have cooperative sharing agreement for athletics, and there are a number of those from Waterloo Christian, Wapsie Valley, Dunkerton, Hudson, Dyke New Hartford, Union, and Columbus. We also have the Junior Achievement Memorandum of Agreement for the 2014-15 school year. We have our board meeting dates for 2014-15 school year. They're in our board packet, and that starts in July for the 2014-15 school year. We also have the Old Irving demolition project, for which we had our public hearing earlier today. And then finally, food service lunch prices for the upcoming school year is also on the consent agenda. Are there any items that board members wish to be removed from the consent agenda? I and O, and that's regarding the donation of the piano from Chuck and Alice Shirey to West High. And then O is the Old Irving demolition project.
And item J, Juliet, and M, Mama.
Okay. And that is the high school, J is the high school, summer school, Cedar Valley's Promise, the grant application, and then M is the Junior Achievement Memorandum of Agreement. And I will ask that Exhibit H, the bills due and payable, be removed, because I'll abstain from that. But we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think. Any other items?
Item G.
G. Okay. Well, now we have. That's personnel appointments and adjustments. Okay. Anything further? I'll stop asking.
Do we get
Okay.
L?
Item L, I'm sorry, item L?
Yeah, item
That's
L.
the athletic cooperative
Yeah.
sharing agreement?
Have that. Recognize that.
Okay. All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items G, H, I, J, L, M, and O.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay, and discussion. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the chair votes aye, motion carried. That takes us to Exhibit G, and is on page 14. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the personnel items as listed. Get that motion on the floor, please.
So move.
Thank you. In a second. Okay, and before discussion, I'll abstain from voting on, no. That's the next one. This is personnel appointments and adjustments. And this, again, it was revised to show Dr. Charles McNulty. So with that discussion?
I guess all I wanted to do with this
Oh.
to just have a little background on Dr. McNulty. I guess I just thought that would be a good thing to know.
Absolutely. And for the people watching as well. So we have hired somebody to replace me, actually, and he will be the Associate Superintendent for Educational Services, and we are very, very excited to have Dr. McNulty join us. He comes with a lot of experience at the building level and at the district level. He actually has been watching Waterloo. He said he's been watching us, and he's been watching our initiatives, and is very enthused and very excited about what we're doing, and really desires to be part of it. He has actually been a superintendent, interestingly enough, in Wisconsin for a few years, and was part of a turnaround school in Freeport, Illinois, and just has a huge background in curriculum and instruction and special ed and administration. So I think he's going to be a great addition. He's actually, right now, he's currently serving in the Educational Leadership Department at UNI, University of Northern Iowa. So he is coming to us from them.
And he's a professor there?
He is a professor
Okay.
there now. Yes, he is. And I actually was over there for a little quick meeting this afternoon, and they are in mourning. They are in mourning, and gave him a round of applause as he walked in. They were very excited for him, but they are very sad to lose him. So.
And Dr. Lindeman, if you could just explain, I think this all came together really Friday and today.
It did.
And so this allows, by
Right.
approving it tonight, allows, I think, the university to move forward
Right,
too.
allows all of us to move forward. We were hoping to move it forward tonight. Otherwise, if we didn't need to do this announcement tonight, so that to do the approval tonight, so that he could officially resign, so they can get the process going, we probably could have waited a couple weeks, but that's why we're moving it forward. It was not actually secured until Friday, and so had we been a day or two earlier, we would have been able to get it on the agenda, and definitely wanted to do that, but it played out this way.
Gotcha, okay.
So.
Excited.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Any further questions or discussion?
Just a point of order, is this an official action because it wasn't in the original agenda?
No, I think because I took a look at that as well. I think on the agenda is personnel appointments and adjustments, and so that is what was on the agenda. It wasn't just for him.
Okay.
Now, I think if we didn't have any personnel appointments or agenda items on the agenda, then it would be. Then we would have to be an emergency or 24 hours. But here, I think because it itself was on the agenda, that's the pertinent part. But your point's well taken, because I had the same thought and then looked at it. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the chair votes aye, motion carried. Now I jumped ahead on this one. The next item on our agenda is Exhibit H on page 17. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the bills due and payable and the bills paid between board meetings. With that motion on the floor, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay. And before starting discussion, I will abstain from voting on this because as an attorney, I represent a client who's paid by one of the bills. Any questions or discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair abstains. Motion carried. Next is Exhibit I on page 26. And the recommended motion here is that the Board of Education accepts and acknowledges the piano donation from Chuck and Alice Shirey, valued at $2,500.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. And a seconded. And discussion. Again, this is a donation to the West High Music Department.
And I just wanted to pull that. I work with Chuck, and they weren't able to be here tonight, but he said that they just had 3 children that were greatly impacted by the West High Music Program, and anything they can do to help, they would like to, and this was just an area that they thought would benefit all future musicians, and he just was more than happy to do this, and he wanted us to know that, so.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I would like to express our appreciation as well. And I thought of that they had 3 kids that went through West High in the music program, and probably thought, their kids are out. Their youngest is in college, Will, I think.
Freshman.
Yeah, and so the piano probably isn't getting as much use as it used to, but it'll get a lot of use now. So.
Alice still can play, Chuck. She can.
Okay.
I just want to know who's going to move the piano. Have you ever
Yeah.
moved the piano?
I don't know.
Sam, I guess Sam was out, and the tuner was out, and it's all good.
Okay, great. Is it a stand? What are you?
No,
I'm
I think
obviously
it's
not very
it's a-
musically
it's a
inclined.
grand.
Is it
And
really?
It's not a
Okay.
concert grand, it's just still a
Okay.
baby grand, it's still band.
But it's going to be a tough one to move. Yes.
Yeah.
Hope it fits
Were
through
you
the door.
volunteering, Lyle? Yeah.
No.
The truck. One man in a truck.
Pianos and pool tables are off my list.
So just thanking Shirley.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes,
No,
thank you.
it's-
Yes.
yeah,
No, that's wonderful.
that's great, yeah. Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the chair votes aye, motion carried with gratitude. The next item on our agenda is Exhibit J, and this begins on page 27. This is regarding the summer school grant application. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education authorize the receipt of the grant through the Cedar Valley's Promise DCAT funding stream in the amount of $20,000 to support high school summer school.
So move.
Thank you. In a second. Okay.
And on this, obviously, it's a grant, so it's much appreciated, but if you could just share the details on what students are targeted, how are they selected, how does this fit the needs?
Okay, yep, this is for high school summer school, so from June 11th to July 3rd at East, West, and Expo. It's, the main funding stream targets at-risk students, so 50% of the students in the program have to have DHS or JCS involvement, and or we need to be deemed at risk by the schools. So that would be students who are lacking credits, students who may have attendance issues, any other way that we would deem a student to be considered at risk. Last year, we received this funding through DCAT as well, same dollar amount, and we had 390 high school students earn 479 credits. So it helps substantially with these students be able to work towards gaining credits that they either missed out on during the school year or that they need to retake, and helps them work towards graduation.
Are these mostly juniors or sophomores or what?
They're freshmen through seniors.
Okay.
And this, and I'm sorry, I didn't introduce, Adrian Carlson,
Yep.
is here. And it looks like at the Crossroads Connection, and then all three, East, West, and Expo?
Yep.
Okay.
And we're, through this funding, we're also able to offer transportation, which is a huge
great.
barrier to some students. So
Okay.
to be able to do that and provide them the transportation to the buildings
Okay.
gives them that access that they wouldn't necessarily have otherwise.
Okay.
And how do you select what courses are offered?
There is actually a group that gets together and they determine which are the credits that the students need. The students also apply to summer school, so they let them know which credits they'll be working towards. So they're working with their counselors and the
And-
summer school coordinators
And
as well.
Lyle, it's the full curriculum of credits offered by Plato software.
Okay.
So it's online, anything in the high school curriculum.
That's great.
And I should clarify, I think I misspoke. This is approval of the grant. It's not just the grant application, correct? It's,
Right.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
grant is, as long as you approve, the grant is being funded at $20,000.
okay, great.
Yep.
And
So-
then- oh, sorry.
Is there a greater number that could be served, or do we pretty much meet the number of students that want to take summer school?
This is the number of students that she reported that we served last year. We're hoping for many more students to become involved. We submitted the grant for a higher amount, and they awarded Waterloo Schools $20,000, and we plan to use every penny of that towards meeting the needs of our students for the summer.
But I would assume that it's a voluntary thing, right?
It's a voluntary, but also we're reaching out to students who are behind in credits or those that
Okay.
wish to, either, some excel in credits. Some of the music students last year at West High participated in this activity also. So it's open to all students within our district, and as she said, they have to apply, but we're encouraging more than the 390. The more that we have involved, the more we can see possibly our graduation rate increase and our students remain in school.
So were you able to serve all the students last year that wanted to?
Yes,
come?
we were able to serve all those students. Even additional days were offered Wednesdays after the program was over, allowing the students who were taking the Plato classes to finish them prior to the first day of school of this school year.
You said that 50% need to be at risk. What kind of a percentage did you get last year? Was it about that, or was there a higher percentage of at risk?
It was a higher percentage. I don't have that exact number in
Just
front of me, but
ballpark.
I would say probably 75 to 80%
Okay.
of those students would
Just
have been deemed
curious.
at risk in some way. And a lot of the students are deemed at risk because they're lacking credits. So to stay with their cohort and graduate on time, they need to get these credits.
Thank you.
Well, if we look at the freshman numbers, historically, the ninth grade class is 20, 25, 30% above any other class, because
That's where we live.
that apparently is the number of students who fail to earn enough credits during their freshman year to move on to
That's
sophomore year officially.
Mhm.
So I think anything we can do to, for those freshmen that haven't qualified for sophomore to catch up would be, that might be the sweet spot in terms of trying to get kids back on track. I don't know, just a thought.
Which I would add too is all the more reason to add transportation to the service, because the freshman students aren't typically drivers, and that has inhibited attendance before, and I think that that's a great addition.
And one thing I think that is really effective in this is it also can be used for the credit acceleration, like you said, because, you know, that offers all students, even higher, not at risk potentially, but that want to participate in choir and band, and they can get additional
Right.
credits. And that's an excellent option too, because it gives the students that maybe want to explore some higher level courses and also the music to still do that. And I think that's very effective too.
And I'll put both of you on the spot. This isn't real important, but what's DCAT? Is that decategorization?
Yes, it's decategorization funds.
Meaning we can use it for a different.
Yep, we can, these are, the funds that we're actually using are actual JCS or Juvenile Court Service funds that they set aside and give to Cedar Valley's Promise to actually support summer programming for at-risk
okay, I
students.
see.
So the funds are actually designated, and then we apply for that. So several school districts in the area have applied for this type of funding. As Cora stated, we requested a higher dollar, but we're lucky to get the $20,000 again this year to continue to serve our high school students.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions, discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the chair votes aye, motion carried. Thanks again. That takes us to the athletics grade sharing agreement. This is Exhibit L on page 31. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the attached cooperative sponsorship agreements that are listed on page 31 and 32 for board packet. Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Okay, in discussion, again, these are athletics, it's a number of schools, with both host schools being West and East, Waterloo Christian, Wapsie Valley, Dunkerton, Hudson, Dyke, New Hartford, LaPorte City Union, and Columbus Catholic. In discussion or questions?
I was just wondering about, there have been some recent questions about the process of these agreements. Was there somebody questioning how these came about, or how they were not all brought to the board or something?
The sharing agreements, to my knowledge, is always brought before the board. I was not aware that there were some questions before the board.
Yeah, there's just a sentence that says there have been some recent questions about the process of these agreements on third paragraph.
In the interest of consistency, okay. It must be at the state level, but we always in the Waterloo District bring them before,
Okay.
so we want to make sure no one feels that we don't bring all of our sharing agreements before, but we always bring them before the
Okay.
board.
Yeah, no, I don't know why that was in there.
Okay. State document.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Based on state guidelines, we must, bring them before our board, and we often share to bring them forth, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we always have in the past, every year, yeah. Okay. Any further questions or discussion? If not, thank you, Cora. If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the chair votes aye, motion carried. Then the next item on the agenda is Exhibit M. This is on page 42 regarding the junior achievement contract for the next school year. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the memorandum of agreement between the Waterloo Community School District and Junior Achievement of Eastern Iowa Incorporated. That on the motion. Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay, in discussion. This is Exhibit M on page 42.
I guess it wasn't entirely clear to me that the scope of this program appears to be 4th through 8th grade. Is that?
The program that we're paying for under this agreement is 4th through 8th grade, but we have if you can look over on the page, on page 46,
Yeah,
we have
that
just about every child in the Waterloo schools gets access to junior achievement. It starts at kindergarten, goes all the way through high school programming. In our memorandum of understanding, they have only been charging us, if you will, for the curriculum materials for those 4 grades. Wow.
But the total students served, the 10,533, which is essentially all students, is that served every year, or is that they were served sometime during their K-12 career?
No, this, every year, it has, notice that it's increased fairly substantially since 05, 06. All of the kids in first grade through, I think the first grade is the starting year.
No, I think it's, my son has a piggy bank by his
In
bed.
kindergarten.
In kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah, I just saw it this week.
And so
He's not good at saving money. No, it doesn't work. Yeah.
And then, so all the way through 8th grade, they would have a regular class period. And then in high school, the students are eligible service through career fairs. And not every student at the high school level has an actual class where the volunteer and the teacher comes in.
Okay, so but most of them would, or is this just more at the high school level an opportunity for those?
It's an opportunity
students to participate.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think the impact that junior achievement has is bigger in the Waterloo district than
It's about the
the
largest
average,
in the
yeah.
United States.
Yeah, I think so.
I was at Carver on Friday, and they did their JA fair where all of their 6th graders were coming in, and they were going to different stations and meeting with professionals, and they were given a career and a budget, and then they had to
Oh, okay.
figure out how much money they could spend on gas, how to balance their
Yeah.
checkbook, how to decide what size apartment to rent so they didn't go bankrupt.
Okay.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
fascinating, and I thank those people who spent their days,
Yes.
in this gym,
Volunteering their time.
volunteering with 6th graders. That was awesome. So
We do that every year, and they started with Carver 2 years ago, and then last year they extended it to Hoover and Central, and I think Bunger was either last year or this year as well. And we being Meridian, have partnered with them to do it, and it's like amazing, not only for the kids, but the learning that is had with the adults who actually participate in that, because we don't necessarily all budget how we should either. So it's a very neat experience, and JA has done something similar to that in Cedar Rapids for years, and so this is just something that I really commend Carrie for taking on and wanting to do something like this, and she was like, will you help us with this? And they don't get additional funding for that fair, so.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
But it is
Great.
more or less a JA curriculum?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that. Thanks to Veridian for doing that, yeah. Okay, any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the chair votes aye, motion carried. That takes us then to Exhibit O on page 48. This is regarding the old Irving building. Again, page 48, recommended motion is that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the Board Facility Committee and approve a notice to bidders for the old Irving Elementary demolition project as presented. It comes from a committee. I don't know if we...
Doesn't need a second.
Well, it doesn't need a second, though. Put that out there for discussion.
I just wanted to bring to the attention, I was over, Irving was my elementary school, and I lived in that neighborhood, and I know the people in that neighborhood have been very patient with the
Yes.
process.
Yes.
And I just wanted to let them know we were walking around, and you could look in and see the memories of the old wooden floor in the gym and the little stage, and just that even in the removal of it, I look for good things in that area, and the new school's beautiful, and we have honored the commitment that we would take that school down, and it's taken a long time, but just to assure the neighborhood that patience is a virtue, and we have been honorable to our commitment.
Yes.
Would you like to take the first swing of the backhoe if I can arrange that? Okay, we'll, I'll talk to the contractor. That'd be quite a deal.
It would. I remember a lot.
Better get liability insurance, Mr. Goffler.
Dr. Norris, do we have an engineer's estimate on that, since it is over 100,000, but we don't know how
Yeah,
much?
we have been budgeting all along a total of about 400,000 for the entire project.
Asbestos.
And the asbestos was a hair more than half, I think, if I remember right. So somewhere under 200,000, I believe, Mike.
Okay.
But
And
those
the-
bids will come before it.
Yeah,
And the bids will be
absolutely.
back with the timeline.
Yep.
Yeah, there.
And just wondering, like, do they have, I know like when they tore the old Kitchell down, they like sold a brick. Do we have a committee that does that and offers for the school? So like Orange coming up too, there might be a little way of fundraising for that?
The way our bid specs are written, part of the incentive for a recycler to take it down is that they get access to everything, and then they can sell it. But most all will work with you. If you knew of a group that wanted to do that, I mean, they're not gonna, probably bricks are the least recyclable. Then, but,
Well, just in thinking in Foresight, like the Orange, all their graduates, those, might
Yeah.
be
Yep.
more, I don't know if Irving is quite as sentimental about that, but Orange.
I think at Blackhawk, the contractor just put out, maybe even outside the fence.
Yeah, they
put out
a few for
pile
those
of
that.
bricks, yeah, a load, yeah.
I will get you one for your desk if you don't take the first backhoe swing.
Or swing it at you.
Yes. But, so your point was very well taken, because Irving was one of the earliest schools that was rebuilt, but the school was kept as kind of a flex school, I think it was called originally. And it did, I think, Lowell used it, didn't they, for a little while? No, that might have all been Lou Henry, I think, but the point is, it has been in the neighborhood for the old building has been there for an awfully long time. The plan is to, once the building is raised, to turn it over, I believe, to the city of Waterloo, to hopefully put in some new housing, so. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the chair votes aye, motion carried. That concludes the consent agenda, and then takes us on to the next item on our agenda, which is Exhibit Q, and Matt O'Brien is here and been waiting patiently. This is regarding technology purchase for tablets and computers. It's Exhibit Q on page 50, and I'll turn it over to Matt here in a second, but the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the purchase of 1,290 laptops, desktop computers, iMacs, iPads, and Chromebooks at the total cost of $746,245. Good. Can we get, thank you, and a second?
Second.
All right, and Matt, if you could just go through the background, this is kind of the annual
Sure.
purchasing, but.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to say that this is a routine purchase, but the board is probably used to me coming to you in April to have a rather large tech buy of equipment that we phase in over the summer. So as the board is aware, part of our strategic plan has a component where we look at technology equity across our schools. And one of the key components of that plan, other than ensuring that we have an equitable distribution of technology, is ensuring a life cycle replacement so that we're ensuring that we have new and or at least functional and up-to-date technology in our schools. So this has become a bit of a yearly process as we've kind of proceeded across that effort. And this is now the second year where we have really tried to take a step back, and rather than just keeping things with the status quo and just kind of replacing on a one-to-one basis, so a laptop was there, we would just then replace it with, a new laptop of a similar model. Instead, we've worked with all of the principals to instead look at some different mixes of technology that would be best beneficial for their for their school. So really, we're seeing a pretty wide mixture between lots of laptops, some desktops, not too many desktops, Chromebooks as well as iPads. And again, this was all kind of conversations between myself and the building principals in the cases of where student technology is involved. The teachers, by default, we've just replaced those laptops for laptops. But in the case of student technology, that was all out of conversations between myself and the principal to determine the best mix of technology for their school. So it's worked rather well that we have some guidelines as far as the strategic plan to ensure that we have an equitable distribution of technology, but we also have some options that have allowed schools to select a mix of technology within that framework that we can support so it budgetarily makes sense, but also gives them some options to ensure that we find a mix that works best for their particular environment. So that's the purchase before you tonight. Again, it's itemized in your board packet. Quite a large part of that is replacing teacher laptops because we have quite a few of those that have come due. If you recall, about 5 years ago, we actually did a huge teacher laptop purchase, which was actually part of the Promethean project and then part of us kind of catching up to ensure that our teachers had accessible technology. So we basically, about 5 years ago, had bought laptops for teachers who already didn't have a laptop, who just had a desktop or some other device but didn't have laptops. So that's why you're seeing a large portion there, as well as quite a bit of student technology available as well. It's worth noting that in the past, the district has been a partner with Dell, and the vast majority of our laptop and desktop purchases have been with Dell. In the past, we've always been able to achieve some very aggressive pricing from Dell, and I always would compare the pricing that we would get compared to what other school districts were getting as well, just to make sure that we were on par and not needing to, kind of look elsewhere. It was evident this year from the pricing I was getting back from Dell that it was time to entertain some other bids. The pricing wasn't really where we would like it to be, so we did solicit bids from really what could be viewed as the three leaders in terms of business technology, which would be Lenovo, HP, and Dell. And as you can see, HP worked very hard to get our business, and they're throwing in some additional things, such as getting our technicians certified to be able to order parts directly, which is something that Dell has done in the past as well. That's obviously important as we look at the total cost of ownership of equipment. They're also extending the same pricing that we're getting from this bulk buy to our what I call onesie-twosie purchases that kind of come later on, and that's both for the Waterloo schools as well as for the city of Waterloo. One of the benefits to them as part of our partnership has been leveraging the district's buying power, so that's kind of an added perk that they can enjoy, is getting this bulk pricing for their purchases as well as the onesie-twosie purchases for the school district. Certainly be happy for questions.
So that's the rationale by not choosing the low price for the desktops?
The desktops and laptops were made clear to the vendors that we would be bidding those as one package. And the reason why we did that is, yes, absolutely for support reasons, for just that total cost of ownership. It would be very difficult. We value our partnership with our vendors, and one of the reasons why we got such aggressive laptop pricing that you see there from HP is because that was bid as a package as well. They're looking at that total cost there. So yeah, that's the rationale, and that was made clear to the vendors up front that would be bid as an actual package.
And then the cost for the Dell Chromebooks, is that a separate?
That was bid separately, and we actually had bids from HP as well. So the challenge with bidding different technology pieces is all the configurations are slightly different. And actually, we tried our best on the Windows side, on the desktop and laptop side, to compare apples to apples. But I should actually note that the HP laptop, which we're ordering, actually is a step above what we were looking at from Dell and Lenovo. They're throwing in a free webcam, and it's a better wireless card as well, which are some things that we kind of negotiated with them to be able to include in that purchase, which were important to us. Chromebooks, similar story, where they're all Chromebooks, so they are all running the same operating system. but the specifications are a little bit different. So these are actually slightly higher than the Samsung Chromebooks that we've bought in the past by about $30, but they have a much longer battery life. They're much better made, so we feel that they're actually going to last us quite a bit longer, where the cheap $250 Samsungs were pretty disposable, quite honestly, in terms of their quality, very plasticky. Also have additional memory as well, so they run quite a bit faster. So in looking at the different options that we had there, that one was based on kind of a combination between the price as well as the unit itself.
So when you say replacement, you mean replacement, or are the old computers, if they're still functional, still in use until they die, or do you do a trade-in on them?
We don't use the old computers in place until we die. However, there are a number of situations where we will still use these retired computers elsewhere in the district. So all the computers that we're removing, those that are still working, some of those will become parts machines, quite honestly, just so we can maintain other similar models that are out there without having to spend additional money on parts. Others are kind of just standbys. So, for example, an Expo student, we've had some Expo students who have needed in one of our programs to check out a laptop or things of that nature. So just one example of areas where we would use otherwise retired computers that still have some life back in them. One of the big things, though, that I say a lot of these will be removed is we again look at the total cost of ownership of having a computer here. And each computer that we have on our network obviously has the hardware cost associated with it, but there's also quite a bit in licensing costs in terms of network Windows CALs that we have to purchase, antivirus CALs, Microsoft Office CALs, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a cost to keep old computers on our network. That, coupled with, all of these computers that we're replacing are running Windows XP, and Windows XP has now had support discontinued by Microsoft. So that's a security concern as well. We're trying to phase that out from our network. So we're going to be very strategic for those reasons, and those that will actually still remain on our network. We still definitely will be using some of those, but they won't necessarily be in the place that they are right now.
So on the licensing, do we not have site licenses, or are the site licenses a direct function of the number of computers on there?
Both. So some of our licensing is actually incremental, where it's based on the number of devices on our network. In other words, we have to pay per device. Others are within ranges of the number of devices. So both still depend on the number of devices on our network. It just depends on whether that's an exact or whether it's a range, but both still depend on that.
For curiosity's sake, are we eventually not going to have any Apple computers in the schools?
We have actually, for a number of years, actually before Dr. Norris and I have been in these positions, the district has actually standardized on Windows computers. The iMac purchases that you have there, our policy has always been, and again, this was kind of a policy that I think we've supported, but that was in place before we came here, was that for really financial reasons, for standardization and financial reasons, we have tried to standardize on one platform, but when there's a specific curriculum purpose to have a different platform, then that's been allowed. So the two Mac labs that we have in the district are actually one at East High and one at West High, and they're both on the graphics, arts, mass communication, those type of sides. That particular curriculum has been better suited for and developed around some software that's only available on the Mac side.
Okay.
So outside of the iPads, which as you know we have quite a few of, those are really our only two exceptions in terms of actual Mac computers in the district.
Okay, thank you.
And Matt, just a question on the Chromebooks. Were those more popular from teachers than some of the tablets?
Yeah, we're hearing some really good. I'll be honest. I'm a fan of Chromebooks in terms of being a nice balance between functionality and price and getting more technology in the hands of students. But that feedback has really been echoed from our teachers, particularly those that are part of our pilots or some other Chromebooks that we have in the district as well. We're seeing really the iPads and other tablets a little bit more popular at the elementary level, where the Chromebooks are more so popular at the middle and high school level. And that just kind of makes sense for the types of devices they are and the apps and functionality that they have.
And Matt, I was wondering, just district-wide, do we have a technology computer equity program that in rotation, that we are not, one school is getting more than another school, so sort of
Yep.
like an equity-wide?
Yep. As I mentioned, our strategic plan kind of has this overall plan where we look at having technology for our staff, for our certified staff members, for our teachers, et cetera. They all have a laptop, and then for student technology, it's based off enrollment. So a minimum of the technology that we allocate as a district as a 1-to-3 ratio. And then we kind of have this life cycle where every 5 to 6 years, when that technology is 5 to 6 years old, then that's when I visit with the principals, and according again to enrollment in our plans, we're coming up with these purchases to have those replacements.
Okay. Because I have heard a couple comments on, well, this school gets new computers all the time, and we don't at this school. So we have that all under control.
I think so. And I think if you look back at this purchase compared to previous years, I think that'll become evident that within the last 3 years, we've certainly touched every school, if not multiple times, just depending on, where they've been due for that cycle. And it's been a little bit staggered because obviously when we open new buildings, we've equipped them with all new technology. So that kind of shifts the cycle a little bit compared to when we've opened new elementaries versus just what's just kind of evolved naturally over the age of technology at our other schools that haven't been open new.
Well, we haven't opened new high schools.
Yeah, exactly.
And just on the technology piece, you're talking about individual unit. I think pretty much every classroom has a Promethean board as
Yeah,
well.
e-
And
every
that's
s-
part
yeah.
of it, so
Yep.
it's not like it's just 1 out of every 3 students has access to some sort of technology, but that it's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is
It's a
just
mix.
one component of
Yeah.
the plan, and there's a number of other pieces of technology, Promethean and otherwise, that are in each of our classrooms or in various areas. So yes, this is a key component, but just one component of our technology plan.
Is there a donation for when first of all, if the computer isn't ready to go in the garbage at the point you're ready to get rid of it, is there a way it can be gifted to another entity that might be able
Sure.
to take advantage of that? And is there a cost associated with that when you have to
The-
clean everything off of
yeah.
it before you get rid of it?
You kind of answered the question a little bit there.
Yeah.
We have done some things in the past where, for example, we've had a number of auctions, and we've definitely, as part of those auction processes, auctioned off and gotten some money off of monitors and some other technology equipment. The biggest challenge with the computers themselves is twofold. One is the additional work that it would take us to actually test the computer and wipe it and get it ready. The second, which is the bigger challenge, is the software that is on there, the operating system, and a lot of the application software is only licensed for us to use because we get educational software, so that complicates that as well. So there's certainly been exceptions to this where we've worked with particular organizations in the past that we've had partnerships with. Like I said, we've done auctions in the past, but that somewhat holds our hand as far as our options with just some of those formalities, legalities, as well as the costs associated that we have to be mindful of. I will say none of it winds up in a landfill. We have recyclers that when something's truly dead or no more use to us, it's not like it just goes to the landfill. I can't say that, maybe a keyboard or something like that doesn't, but the vast majority of equipment will actually have a recycler come on site, and we'll get at least a pittance of some money out of that in terms of just the raw materials that they're able to recycle for us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Okay. If not, Matt, you're still on the next agenda item, but I was thinking, going through this, that since you started working with the city, which has been a great program, we don't see you as often. We miss you. You're not in our meetings, our board meetings as often, because I assume you're at city council meetings and?
Yeah, it's an interesting Monday with, and sometimes I don't make either, but the
Okay.
city council's at 5:30
Yeah.
and this is at 6 o'clock, so
Yeah.
just depending on the day. Yeah.
The biggest change of his life was the marriage. It wasn't the.
Well, if my wife's not watching, I can joke that the joke around our department is I actually have 3 full-time jobs now between the marriage and the city and the school district.
Right.
Yeah, I hope she's.
Yeah, let's hope she's not.
And if you're very wise, you know which one comes first.
Indeed, indeed.
At school, right?
And Susan,
Oh, boy.
we'll move on.
I'm in trouble now.
If there's no further comments or questions, we'll vote
I'm done
on the,
commenting.
on the motion to approve the purchase. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The chair votes aye, motion carried. Matt, thank you. Then this takes us to the second of the 2 technology items. This is Exhibit R on page 53, and the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve and sign the memorandum of agreement to continue to provide technology leadership, network services, and supplemental technology support services to the city of Waterloo. And Matt, I don't know, I'm sorry, we'll get that motion on the table.
So moved.
Thank you. In a second. Okay, thank you. And Matt, I don't know if you want to get the background or Dr. Norris, if
Matt.
you do, Matt? Okay.
Sure. So this is a continuation of the agreement that will now be going into our 3rd year. It's actually now been past 2 years. We're past the 2-year mark now with the city, as that initial agreement was entered in April of 2 years ago. Major change to this agreement, which the board is aware of, is we renegotiated this agreement with the city this year in attempts to ensure that it was going to be sustainable for both organizations. So entering into this agreement, it was, I think, very difficult for both sides to really know what we were jumping into, obviously due to the transition and the somewhat confidential nature of a staff member leaving at the city and us kind of diving into some unknowns. So we've taken this opportunity, and actually Dr. Norris and myself met with the mayor as well as the city CFO several months ago just to look at the state of the agreement, look at what we've been able to accomplish this far, but also look at the fact that really as it stood right now, the agreement was definitely weighted in favor of the city in terms of the value that they were getting, and both parties, I think, agreed that this was a beneficial partnership, and both parties expressed a desire to make this sustainable moving forward. So the agreement before you, which the city council actually approved at past Monday night's meeting, which is where I was past Monday night, that was approved past Monday night, and this agreement actually increases the amount by $100,000 that the city is paying the school district for our services. And with that money, we're actually using that to add 2 additional staff people to the tech staff, one of which was actually included in the personnel actions that was part of the consent agenda that you voted on earlier last night, which was a network security administrator, which was actually an internal appointment or promotion that we were able to make of one of our techs into that position. That individual is going to be working with both the City of Waterloo as well as the Waterloo schools, adding some additional capacity to our network and our infrastructure team, and focusing on security. As we all know, security is becoming a major concern for all organizations, and just the latest headlines that we've seen with security incidents, I think, is probably proof enough for that. So that individual will help us hopefully be a little bit more proactive, as well as the city be more proactive in that area. The second position, which we have now made an offer, and that offer has been accepted, obviously contingent on board approval, is being called an IT support facilitator. And that individual is going to be based full-time at City Hall. So they're a Waterloo Schools employee through this agreement, but based at City Hall. So they'll be part of our team, but they'll be helping build technical capacity at the city, as well as taking some of those day-to-day management tasks away from me. Right now I'm kind of wearing both the manager hat as well as the leader hat at the city, and the goal is for me to maintain that leader hat while this individual can take on a lot of those day-to-day facilitation management functions as well, which will hopefully help me spend some more time invested back in the Waterloo schools, which I've been lacking as of late. So we hope that will kind of allow me to balance a little bit better.
Yeah, go ahead.
What are the cost drivers of the total city school support, I'm assuming some of them are commonality of equipment and commonality of programs and that sort of thing, and quality of equipment, but where do you see that going? Is there enough, quality improvement, so to speak, to actually anticipate a reduction in time spent, or is the number of units increasing to the point where you see a net increase? What's the strategic plan, I guess?
The interesting piece of the partnership with the city is, as I mentioned, we were diving into an unknown when we started. The other big variable with this is the city's support needs have grown rather exponentially since we started, and there's kind of two factors at play with that. The first is they brought two major new facilities online with the Public Works building as well as the new Sportsplex, both of which have been taxing, particularly obviously we've been opening those facilities. Anytime you open a new facility, that involves quite a bit of staff work, which have definitely put a strain on our staff. So there's that factor. The other factor, quite honestly, was time that we had to make up in terms of projects or areas of need that had kind of been left stagnant for a while, that we're kind of now picking up the slack and trying to move them forward. So really, this was, I think, the right time to stop and have this conversation with the city, because I think we had reached kind of this critical point in terms of the city's needs where they had grown quite a bit, but the agreement hadn't grown to support that, and our capacity hadn't grown to support that. I think now we're at the point with this newly restructured agreement and these two new positions where obviously anything could happen in the future, but we don't foresee in the immediate or medium-term future new city facilities coming online. We're starting to get a handle on some of the most critical projects and kind of knowing the strain and whatnot it's taking off of our staff to move the city forward to where they need it to be. So this, we feel like, at least for the medium term, which is about all you can foresee in terms of technology, this agreement and the changes that were made here are actually hopefully setting us straight that we have the right capacity to be able to sustain that. And that was important to the city too, as we had these conversations with them. Obviously, this was a significant increase in terms of askings, and I think they all admitted and very much supported the fact that we were providing value for them and not necessarily getting the appropriate compensation to make this a fair agreement. But on the flip side, certainly they wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be gouging them with this type of increase every year unless their needs truly continued to grow every year. So that was one of the additional pieces as part of the agreement that was put in that the city requested, that basically governs our kind of agreement from this point forward, looking at tying that more to what our actual staff costs are rising, unless both parties agree to change the services that are governed in the agreement.
Is gouging a technical term?
I've tried not to use too much jargon during this. Hopefully I haven't been too bad.
Well, and Matt, I just wanted to give kudos to your staff, because I think it speaks real high volumes of the collaboration of the government entities working to the benefit of the taxpayers, but also that the city did not even, there was not one negative comment or vote with the almost double price. So your staff has done an awesome job in providing the technological services, and just keep up the good work, because you're a true asset to the district.
I really appreciate that, and just two things I'll briefly highlight. The first is it definitely is a staff. It is not just me. We have a great team, and I'm fortunate to have that. The second piece is for those that caught the article in the Courier the last week that kind of said it passed with no discussion. A little bit misleading, because we had plenty of discussion during the city's budget discussions. That's where obviously a lot of this conversation took place, but it was definitely a powerful statement that despite a challenging budget year for the city, that they were able to proceed with this. And then by the time we got kind of through the budget talks, the final passage of the agreement in terms of them, I don't want to say was just a formality, but a lot of that discussion had already taken place during the budget meetings.
Well, they were in budget cuts in almost every other department. And,
correct.
It's right.
And Matt, I would just echo those comments to thank you and your staff for the implementation, and Dr. Norris too, for this was the one item that you talked about, I think, when you came as superintendent, discussing that, and ways to work with other government entities.
Oh, boy. Wow.
You can't catch a break. No, it's been a very good program, Matt. So the only negative though that we see is we haven't seen you in our board meetings as often, but that's
I
probably
still
a
make the
good thing.
appearances, and that's hopefully
Yes.
the structure of this,
Oh
is
yeah,
that we'll be
no,
able to
it
spend
works
some more
very,
time
very
with
well.
the district.
It works very well.
Yeah, I know.
We're giving you a hard time, but
It's nice to be missed.
yes.
I think this,
wife says that
Oh, boy.
Okay, yes. Any further discussion?
I think the slack factor should become an official measurement. Of every
And Dr. Norris is showing you how many days and hours and minutes and seconds he has left. Well, Matt, thank you again.
You bet.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the chair votes aye. Motion carried. And Matt, before you go, I didn't want to jinx anything, so I didn't sign it before, but we'll give you these, just so. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And that concludes the action items on our agenda, but the last item we have on our agenda is the monthly financial information. This is Exhibit S. It's for information only, but it begins on page 62. And there are a number of charts and spreadsheets in here. And for this, we'll turn it over to the district CFO, Michael Coughlin.
Thank you. It's good to see that we have a good crowd left to hear the exciting news. It's been fun to just sit and listen to a lot of successes and know that that's what the district is really all about. I read a comic just the other day about somebody cutting off something for the budget, and they asked, "Is that really necessary?" And he said, "Yeah, the numbers that are arbitrary is what I'm trying to think. I was too late. I've been here too long. The arbitrary financial targets are more important than meeting the needs of the constituents." And then they both look at each other like, that really sounds stupid when you say it out loud. So really from our standpoint, and we have lots of challenges and challenges ahead of, it is not the budget that runs the district. It's the district that runs the budget. So that's something that we want to continue to do. So it was refreshing to just sit and listen to a lot of good news tonight. The financial statements start on page 63 and 64, which is the cash positions of all of the different funds that we have.
Did you say that as a precursor to the bad news? Is that what you're getting?
No, actually, we're coming in right on target. There are a couple of things that are things that we're going to have to watch to get to the end of the year, but we have inner workings to have that in under control. So we feel good about where we're coming in with our planned revenues and expenditures. So 65 is the general fund, showing the revenue categories at the top and the expenditures at the bottom. And if you think of this is through March, roughly you should have about 75% of your budget through. But since we backfill at the end of the year a couple of months extra salaries, we should be below that. And that is, as you look at expenditures, we're at 63%. So that's a target that we anticipate to be at. And then page 66 is the breakdown by function and object of the general fund, of all of the different program areas, as you look at the headings across the left-hand side, and then how those are broken out compared to the budgeted numbers in the middle chart, and then at the bottom is a comparative to last year's actual. So this will start being honed in very carefully as we close April in just a few days, and then we've got 1 month of school left in the summer end of the year expenditures, so the year is closing quickly. So things will be watched very carefully. On page 67 is the management fund, the PEPAL fund, and the capital projects fund, showing that we are running about the same type of percentages spent to this point. That's more of an actual 75% of the activity, and we're under that in PEPAL and management. And the capital projects fund is kind of its own situation with the completion of the buildings that we have going on, semi-major projects of Hoover being addressed right now, and then we will have follow through this summer on the bus garage if that all gets all falls into play as we are anticipating. 68 is a reflection of the cash flow in our 4 major funds, showing that we are a little below where we were 2 years ago, but pretty consistent with where we were last year. And that's kind of the picture of saying we knew we were going to drop our balances a little bit a year ago, but then we're leveling off this year to try and keep our balances at the targets of around $10 million for the unspent balance authority in the general fund, which is one of our main financial indicators.
On page 65, the equipment, is the purchase of the computers going to the equipment line?
Yes, it does. So yeah, as you see that only 30% spent to this point, that's what happens as Matt holds his budget to the spring. And out of that 760, he's not here, roughly half of it, 400,000 to 450 will be spent out of this year, and the rest will be done after July 1st. So not all of that will come out of this year's budget. So that's something that he and I work with very closely at the end of the year to see what he needs to get the summer going, and then what can be extended off until after the first of the year.
But with what we approved tonight, the 30% basically jumps in line with the other.
Yes. Yeah.
Does it look like that's going to end up under 100% for the year, or are there other purchases as part of equipment that will come before the end of the year?
I'm not anticipating any major expenditures
So
in
you're
equipment.
probably going to end up only about 60 or 70% of the budget then for 13, 14.
In equipment, yes.
Good.
But that's the smallest item.
Right.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, Michael, just to, what you talked about in the beginning was that the school district runs the budget, not the other way around, but the budget underpins everything else. It's the foundation for everything else. So thank you for what you're doing with it, because it makes everything else go. So thank you for that. And this is for information only, but just if we have questions, please feel free to direct them to Mr. Coughlin. And that concludes the action items on our agenda. Next is the superintendent's report. Dr. Norris.
Tomorrow morning early, 12 of us. Sorry. Tomorrow morning early, 12 of us depart for to see the Newcastle County Technical High Schools in near Wilmington, Delaware, and we'll be meeting with school board members and other business leaders tomorrow afternoon as soon as we get there. And then we're going to run all of the board members and community people ragged for the next day and a half. And we're going to witness and see kind of the vision for what we could have in Waterloo. Jane and all of her staff have been incredibly busy with getting the teacher leadership and compensation grant accepted and implemented, and as teachers start to state their preferences for jobs online. Jane and company designed an entire website so they could apply for these jobs online and have an automated process. It's a fantastic job. Also, Jane and her staff are working at writing the school improvement grant for Cunningham School, and there's just a lot going on right now. A lot. And Jane, I believe you finished up boxing up Iowa assessments this evening?
We did, and that's why I was late. So it was for good reason. So they are going in on Wednesday, but I won't be here tomorrow, so I was trying to finish that up.
And then probably in May, in our May one board meeting of the month, we'll have the athletic committee report come then, and we'll have the high school task force report likely come in June. So a lot going on in there.
There is.
Sue,
Yes.
a lot's going on.
Well, along those lines, there are only 2 more board meetings after this, because our second board meeting in May is Memorial Day, so that's canceled. So, and then there's
So I
one
only
meeting
have
in
2 more
June.
board meetings.
So yes, it's going quickly.
And then
We'll show up for another one just because of you, Sue.
Call a special meeting.
And you can take your chair with you if you want.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Norris. And now information from board members. Can start. Thank you.
I don't have anything to say.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Angela. And Sue Flynn.
I've said enough tonight.
Thank you, Sue. Shannon McNally.
I don't know if any of you saw in yesterday's Sunday Courier, there's a really nice piece about Partners in Ed. I just wanted to say thank you to all of our partners. All of our buildings share really great relationships with our community, and our Partners in Ed are really valuable. So I just wanted to say thank you. I also want to say a little shout out to the juniors and seniors that will be attending East and West High's prom this weekend. Be safe and do the right things and make good choices. Exactly.
Yes.
That's the mama bear in me.
Yes. So, well said. Thank you, Shanley. And Lyle Schmidt.
How do we jump?
Oh, well, I was going to, I'm sorry, Andrea Sparks. Andrea Sparks, excuse me.
No.
I'm sorry.
Shanley, you're just too well organized. I was going to bring that tonight. I forgot about it. But I'll elaborate. What was it? It's 27 years now, Partner in Educations, I think. And I remember when I was at Edison when we had our first partner. And back then, every school's just had about one partner in education. And I mean, it's been such a tremendous outpouring of a dedication in the community, because how many now partners for each of our schools? 4 or 5, some have 10. I mean, it's just a wonderful support that the community has brought forth for our schools, for our students.
Do you know
So-
who the first partnership was?
Who?
Logan and Allen Hospital.
Logan
Ah,
and Allen
okay.
Hospital.
I worked with Allen.
Okay. Well, it's been a very good partnership. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
They've nursed it along well.
We'll miss
Oh,
that.
and it's so very important for our schools, very important.
Yes.
Cut it out.
Yes, yes. All right, thank you, Andrea. And Mike Kinchy.
While the rest of you are off in Delaware, I'll be attending a big IB announcement this week later.
Yes.
So looking forward to that as a
Yes.
parent and a board member. So,
Yes, yes. The IB cohorts, I think, at East and West are Thursday?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
That's all.
Great, thank you. Yes.
And
And Lyle Schmidt.
Two things. One, I think the Lowell students, the class, for getting back to us and
Yes.
after doing their homework assignment. That was
Yeah.
interesting result, and I don't know what the next step is, but we'll figure that out.
Okay, yeah.
And number two, just I think I've shared most of these questions with you that are going on the trip, but just for the general benefit, number your paper from 1 to 7, because these are the questions that you need to come back with the answers for. First one.
Actually, can you email us? Yeah.
How about you email them tomorrow morning, Lyle?
No, I just want to review them quick. First is, what are the technology and technologies technical courses, technologies, you know, that you see that might be a good fit for this, best fit for the Cedar Valley? That would be the first question. Then, what's the profile of students who are attracted to, or successful in, or fit into that particular culture? What are the success factors that are needed, and where do we have them? Then, what's the job history of the instructors? When I was there, it's been, what, 2 or 3 years ago? It was interesting to see that most of the teachers were professional craftsman turned teacher.
Correct.
Not the other way around. And there
Oh,
were
that's, yeah.
a whole variety of reasons for that, and it doesn't have to be the only way, but explore that a little bit. What is the job history of the graduates? It was, I don't remember how many years it was in existence when we were there, but you've got a couple, 3 more years now. So it'd be interesting to see in what areas of technology is there the greatest demand today for those skills. And then what's the range of the facilities basically needed to support each one of those specific ones? What certification is available so that we could offer them to our high school graduates? You're certified in X, Y, or Z. And lastly, I don't know if they have this data, but to do some longitudinal data to say, okay, these students, their first job out of this technology was this, and their second job was this, and they went on to higher education, or they didn't. As much longitudinal data as you can now that it's a number of years old, because I don't think this is the traditional, you start in a craft and stay there for life.
Correct.
I think it's part of this whole changing mix of higher education in which it's a combination of actual work experience and theory, formal study. So just kind of like an idea of maybe they don't have the information, but to the extent they do, pick their brains.
Jane will have that ready for you in August, all of this.
But I think one thing, though, Lyle, we need to be conscious of is, you know, in Delaware, that's one of the 2 choices of the track of high school, and it's
Exactly.
state funded.
True.
So, it's
Well,
a
it's
little bit.
voluntary.
Right, but.
The
they
state
have
funds
2
it
options.
considerably more.
Yeah, so we don't have the
Bless you.
component of the state offering this large amounts of funding to run this program too.
So we may have to rely on private industry
Yeah.
and that sort of thing to fund it.
I forgot to say, Mike, speaking of the addition that Shanley was talking about to the paper, there's I hope it's called correctly, Andrew, help me, the Progress Edition?
Yeah,
Is it-
January or February.
When does it come out? The one you did all the reporting on about career tech ed?
That was in January, I think. Was there a Sunday in January, February? Insert. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that's another absolutely well done piece that
Yeah.
featuring
I think
this
Jane was-
workforce development, career
You
tech.
and Jane were
Yeah.
at a round table.
Yep.
And then there was also an article, I think, on the on some of these things
Yes.
as well. So okay. And now email us your questions if you can too. And that reminds me, oh, you got them? Okay. One thing I neglected on the other subject was the Irving students, and I just emailed with the teacher. I didn't send something out. I'll need to email it out to set up a time to go, if anyone's interested in going to Irving to meet with those 5th graders, because they did the research. I think Andrew did the story on the cost of washing plates, I think, rather than so I'll send that out if anybody's interested. It's for the following week. Wait, it might be next week. I don't know. Time kind of flies. It's a little busy right now. So speaking of that, our next regular meeting is in 2 weeks. It's on Monday, May 12th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. And if there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. In a second. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. We're adjourned. Thank you all.